Wow. Very good. Can you hand me the peanut butter, please?
You want creamy?
She can have it with me.
You want creamy or the other kind?
Is it plain? Yeah.
Cream?
Mama's going to do the kind. Okay. We got a choice.
Nice creamy butter?
I can eat this.
Oh, this one is less crunchy. This is pretty good.
You had your breakfast?
Diana? Here. What do you want? Pancake? Bunny roll.
Yes.
Yours.
Your little girl sent it to me. Is that the one?
Kaya grandpa and
The
grandma.
one you sent to me?
Kaya grandpa and grandma.
What?
Kaya grandpa and grandma. What is your car?
Kimberly.
Yes, that's our name.
Can I see it, Kimberly?
See, this is Kimberly. Right?
Show me. Here.
Okay, right there.
Up like this. Let me get it here. Why is this? Hi, big grandma.
I began to shiver, sweat. I got my spoon, I got a big spoonful of peanut butter and just sit and eat it. In about less than 30 minutes, I'm over. That's all I need.
Okay, Judy.
One doctor told me to keep a little bag of peanuts with me all the time. I brought it coming out. We were camping and I guess I ate some grapefruit. We were there on a hike about a mile.
Hi,
A
Phoebe.
mile from the camp. And I fainted. I ran back down to the camp. My sister, everybody from the camp had come up there, big campground. We were called from Anaheim. We had met him the night before and talked to him. He was a policeman from Anaheim. We was way up Boulder Dam and camping up there. He had me sitting, he was down on his knee and had me sitting up against his other knee. And everybody, the whole circle of people around me, everybody had paper cups of water or orange juice or coffee or something. They were all something for me to drink. Nobody knew what was the matter with me. And they got me down to the camper and my nephew drove it. I thought, I'd look up and everything was clear. Well, he's right, he turned to go back down to the camp, and I thought, well, no, I'll go right. That's the last I remember thinking. I fainted. I fainted and they got me in the hospital. And the doctor said the only thing they figured is how to diagnose it. That glycemia doesn't show up. So
What did Stevie say?
we got back to Glendora.
What did he say?
How it happened.
What does that mean?
You have hypoglycemia.
What does that mean?
You
Come
had a
here.
heart attack. You wouldn't have gone that far. You didn't have a heart attack.
I want to see the rabbit.
She did it herself.
Let me see.
She did the body, the head. Tell Daddy about it.
Very good. Like that. Very nice. Okay. Very good. Okay, you can eat it now.
Big breakfast.
Yeah.
Is it cut up for you? You gonna cut it up to eat it? Well, you got that.
No, no, no.
Yes, Dad?
Oh.
Hi, Stevie. Hi, Stevie. Say, Cece down. Cece down. Where is Cece?
Okay, put it back there.
Okay.
Yeah, she's gonna have her rabbit. She made a rabbit.
Wanna banana?
Easter bunny. Banana? Good idea for Easter bunny. Yeah, she likes banana. Banana here. There's some on her table.
Look, Daddy.
It's so green, like the eye
Wait,
of the
wait. Now back up so I can see it. Too close.
See?
Back up. Okay. Stand here.
Yeah.
Stand here.
Hey.
Stand right there. Let me turn around so you can see it. Don't drop it though. Read the rabbit. Can you see yourself? Very pretty, Kimberly. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, okay. Good girl. Now you can put syrup on them and eat them. Mmm, good.
I got the fruit here this morning.
Oh,
I don't need it now.
oh,
No,
okay, later.
have fruit here. Mm-hmm.
Work ready.
Got it cut up so you can eat it.
See? Good. Here. Jack, here. They cut it by blocks like this. See, you remember?
In little blocks like that, yeah.
Little,
Watch it
little
now.
bit. Circle, circle,
Big,
circle.
big, big circle. Can Grandma cut it for you? Use all your appetite before you get it ready to eat. Then you don't eat. You're not hungry. Good. Come up where you eat it. That's all you have to do is eat it. You had it cut up. Sure, you can eat it now. You had it cut up. Go ahead and eat it. It's getting cold.
So thank you, Grandma.
Let me show you how to do it.
Can I cut yours?
No, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Then how to do it like this. No. Like this. Cut like this. Look, Kimberly doing it.
Put the syrup back here and then we'll spill it.
Okay. See, Carrie, how to do it.
Sure you can. Stevie, you're quiet this morning. Having a good time, aren't you?
No, no, no. He said no. He said no, quiet.
He doesn't need to cry. Why should he cry? He's got his food and his milk and everything. That's all
But
he needs.
he's real good at it.
Mommy's coffee.
I don't know if I finished.
There's mommy's coffee.
Too late.
It's a big cup for a little boy.
No, double. He take a coffee. Me. What do? What to do? Please. What to do? What to babysit, please? He said babysit, please.
Never played it there, but done before.
Yeah.
For them, it's early.
Yeah.
Never see this dinner, right?
You can eat anything.
Never see this crispy.
Oh, that's a 1 minute right.
When are you going to eat your breakfast?
You bring it to a boil. And,
Still drinking coffee.
everybody's having lunch by that.
Mommy's coffee.
So you bring it to a boil. Yes.
I bet it's
Put it on
mostly
the
milk.
and set it off the fire. Turn the fire off.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
He's ready for a refill.
Louder, I can't hear you.
Give me a refill. I'm ready for some more.
Good.
Inch screen, I think was all it was. But it had a clear picture. And Harry was working at night, and we bought a 19-inch screen then for ourselves. And we gave it to Madeline so she'd have something to look out, do at night while Harry was working. And they had that little, till they could afford to buy a TV themselves. That little 12-inch screen.
Yeah. We have 12-inch screens now.
Oh.
Awesome.
When my that one began to play out and need repair and everything, I thought I'd get a new one. And the salesman brought out to the house 22-inch. And I was just living in a little apartment. You had to sit back far enough from the big screens to see it. And the picture separated, sitting up too close to it. And they insisted that 19-inch screens going out of style, I had to get a 22-inch. I didn't give in to them, and I was glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because of 19-inch screens.
Well, a couple of years ago, the 12 inches were the common ones. Now they're the 27-inch, like my father has. But
Yeah,
the 12 inches did very well for a while.
but you have to sit farther back at that time anyhow to get the picture together. You couldn't see it close up. But I think mine's still a 19-inch. I don't know if it's any bigger than 19-inch now or not. But at that time, as the salesman insisted that I get the larger screen. That was in the 56.
Well, that's when I was born.
Yeah, it was about the time you were born.
Well, now they make them 2 inches.
Yeah. I knew they had for cars and things, and I didn't know, I'd never seen one. It's cute. But I can't quite see it clear enough.
Okay, I was just wondering.
And they invited them to come down to go to the ball game, football game. And Enid and Ellen wore the thermal underwear and everything to sit out in the cold, and expected. So they knew they was going to have dinner at this people's house, and then let's go to the ball game. And after the ball game, after the dinner, why, they folks settled themselves in the living room, and then Enid and Ellen wondered what was going on. Why, they wasn't getting ready to go out to the ball game. And they turned on their TV, and they had to sit there in their thermal underwear in the room and watch the ball game on TV.
This is neat.
They were showing off their TV. They were proud of it.
Yeah, freezing to death.
But they made them think that they was going to go out to the ball game. Oh well. Times have changed in the after World War II, things happened. The big change of everything. And now after this war, look at how we watched the battle and things right in our living room. We was right with the boys right along.
They put the TV cameras right inside the bombs.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Gosh. Yeah.
Be interesting to see what happens next. 20 years from now, what will
I
we be
wonder.
surprised by?
I wonder. I don't I just can't visualize computers. I haven't pinned myself down to go to a class to study or anything. It wasn't necessary for me to do that. And it's just like living in another world, and I hear them talking about it and everything that computerizing does. But these young kids are going into it. Take it for granted.
Yeah. It's been fun to have been young, being 8 and 9 years old and having all the time in the world, spend all summer learning about computers. And,
Yeah.
but now you're older, and I'm older, and you don't have as much time to
Yeah.
play with them and learn them.
They bring out something new all the time. What was it I heard the other day about a software, how they was using it. Forget now what it was about, but something about software and computerizing. I don't know.
Well, the phone company's got, we're talking about TV, the phone company has bought the rights to the technology. Now they have to put it into action, where they would transmit the television shows you want to see over the telephone. You dial in, punch in the numbers on the phone to watch whatever movie you want to see, and they'll transmit it back on the telephone. Of course, they bill it to your phone.
Oh, sure.
So you can just watch anything you want at any
Yeah.
minute. Any
Oh,
instant.
for goodness sakes. They was talked about there for a while. You call and dial somebody and you could see them talking. I don't know whether that was carried on. I don't think it was ever carried on very far, was it?
You can go to the hardware store and buy those phones, but it doesn't do any good unless the person at the other end has the phone.
Yeah.
It's there, it's just nobody really cares to have it.
I have a cordless phone, and Radio Shack said that all it needed was a battery. Well, I've sent it into certain repair places twice to have it repaired, and the last time I sent it was 2 years ago, and it was delivered. I think I had to send it out to someplace like Westchester on the west coast, out west. Anyhow, that was the address I had sent it to before, and I didn't hear from it or something, and I had the delivery slip, and I went to the delivery place where I'd sent it in, and they checked it, traced it, and it had been sent to Orange. And our repair place was in Orange. So I had the phone number, and I called them. Well, lady, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks before I can get it. And I called in a couple of weeks. Well, lady, there's people ahead of you. You have to wait. Just snotty about it. I finally got it back, I think, in a month or two. And it was over $30 repair on it. Whatever it took. So I talked to the Radio Shack then. I said, can you handle, it's a Unideck. And telephone company handles the Unideck telephones, but not the cordless. And they don't repair them. And so Radio Shack said, oh, probably all it needed was battery. So I took it up to them, and they were supposed to order a battery for it. My sister went up to check on it, and they hadn't got it. Well, they hadn't ordered the battery for it yet. So anyhow, she went back to get it, and they didn't have a battery for that. So I still don't have it repaired. I didn't send it anyplace because I didn't know where we were going to, and should be there for delivery on it and everything when it does come. So it's in storage now. But when I had a the television with the large numbers on it so I could dial easily. And I had to send it back because it was only on loan. When I moved from there, I sent it back, but to the telephone company. But I don't know what to do with that Unideck now, where to send it to.
All it needs is a battery, the correct battery. If they, when they send it to you, it'll be correct, it'll be fixed. And
Yeah.
so I can find batteries.
Enid said she thought that somebody knew something about them, would know where to go to and what to do about it. But I don't know. I'll wait until we get settled down and see what goes on. Maybe all it needs is something Bob can do to it. But when I was having my knee surgery, I sent it in knowing that I knew a month ahead of my surgery that I was going to have my knee surgery. And I sent it in to have it repaired so it'd be ready when I couldn't move around. I'd have my telephone handy. And my knees were all healed before I got my telephone back. Grandma's talking to Daddy. Get over here on this side.
Okay.
No. Thank you. There.
Very good.
It's nice, all dressed nice for Easter. Yeah.
Is this light too bright for you?
No,
Okay.
that's all right.
See, who's that?
Do you see Grandma there?
Who's that?
My goodness sakes.
It's very different.
United States history we're living. And,
Well, now's your chance.
but they
What
don't
would
care anything about their grandfather or grandmother or anything about it.
Well, what would you like them to know? What do you think is interesting?
Huh?
What do you find interesting about your family background and history?
Well, to me, for instance, my grandfather's history, they were in pioneer times. They had to use ox team to get around with. They didn't, of course they had horses too, but my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother drove an ox team. And they lived 4 miles out of town, and she drove that ox team to town. She had bad teeth, and the dentist pulled all of her teeth. And she had 4 babies, 4 little boys. She drove that ox team to town and had her teeth pulled, and took care of all those boys, and drove that ox team back home again.
Wow.
Imagine doing that nowadays.
How old was she then?
If we have a tooth pulled now, why, somebody's got to drive the car because you're not able to drive it.
Well, I've had teeth pulled, and I had to go to work the same day because I was the manager.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't so bad, but I was surprised I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, back to that big barn there in Michigan, there was, the native trees was woods, and as they grew native, you know. And when I was a child, my earliest remembrances is seeing the maple trees being tapped. And I have a vague memory of the buckets hanging on the trees and the spout dripping the sap into the bucket, and of the big pan with the fire. They had a big shallow long pan with the fire under it, and they poured that sap in, and it cooked down to the thickness of the syrup. And I have a vague memory of that. And when I was, when Tom and I was there in Michigan in '78, we went into this big barn that Grandpa had, and the beams in that barn, the center supports middle of that barn, the beams, the tree trunk, the tree was, there's 40 feet to the top. And I said, where did they get a 40-foot tree? Nothing like that now. Well, they were all cut down, and it's all farming country now, grazing and farming. They just cut those trees down to make more room for farming. And there's nothing like that growing there now. And that barn sits there just as solid as when Grandpa built it in, 18-something. I can't remember dates. And I've got a lot of pictures of that barn. And, well, I guess my sister kept them all. She took them all home with her. I had my grandfather and grandmother's marriage certificate, my dad's father and mother marriage certificate, and mother and dad's marriage certificate. And I let my sister take those all home with her because I just, what would I do with them now, and so on. You folks are probably more interested than any of her children are. But she appreciated it, you know, and the value of them. It's her grandparents too. But I don't know. People just are not interested in their background much anymore. And we talk about you marrying an Ecuadorian and Mexicans, and I've got Mexican great-grandchildren, but my grandfather and grandmother came from Switzerland. Another grandpa came from Germany, and I don't know where that grandmother came from, but we're mixed up in those days. We're all mixed up, mixed blood, nationalities every place. So what's the difference? But I don't know. I enjoyed going back to those places. In 1918, Mother and Dad and Enid and I, Enid was 5 years old, I was 14 that summer, and we went to Michigan. We drove a Model T Ford, 1918 Ford, from Kansas City to Michigan, and we spent the summer there because Mother and Dad had so many old neighbors and friends there, relatives, and we spent the summer up there. We left as soon as school was out and got back into Oklahoma in time to start school in September. And the roads were just graded dirt roads, and if it rained, we couldn't go in. We had to get off the road because the road was slippery, and we'd pull into somebody's bluegrass lawn front yard, and every time but one, the people came out and invited us into the house. And we spent the night until the roads would clear, you know, dry up enough that we'd go on the next morning. And it was just a marvelous trip to think back compared to how we go nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's just, Mother made friends with those people that we stayed overnight with. They were friendly. Nobody'd invite you to come in and stay all night now. You wouldn't invite a stranger out here to come in the house. But one time we was going through a little town, and there was a big black cloud behind us, and the wind began to blow, and Dad says, "I'll outrun it." And he could only go 25 miles an hour at speed. I was speeding, and he was going to outrun the storm. And the leaves began to go by us. The wind was blowing the leaves past us, and there was a little side road and a house and a big barn, and the big barn door was open, and they drove the wagons and farm machinery into the barn, stored through the winter. And that barn door was open, and Dad just headed for that barn. And people saw us. I was on this porch. We had to go by the house. They hollered, "Hurry, come in before the storm breaks." And Dad parked the car, and we jumped out and ran in the house just as it started pouring. And we stayed there all night. And in the morning, there was 3 or 4 young men in the family. They went out, got up early, went out and shot squirrels. We had fresh squirrels for breakfast. And they had an old woman like me, and they had feather ticking mattresses, and they're about as thick as my down mattress comforter is here now. and they put one on the floor, and this old lady and I slept on the floor. They covered us in the summertime with another feather cover, and I'd get hot. I'd roll out from under it and lay on the floor, and the old lady'd pull the cover over on me. She didn't want me to get cold. And Mother wrote to those people for years, kept friendship with them. And you wouldn't think of inviting anybody in your home nowadays like that.
Like, yeah, it's risky enough inviting somebody you think you know in the family.
Yeah,
People are
it's
crazy.
taking a risk, isn't that? Yeah. Now, it's interesting to think back my 87 years of experience and things that we did in those days when I was a girl. It's just,
I remember Grandpa Tom talking about shooting rifles at the Indians, just
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the old westerns.
yeah. He killed a Chinaman. He ran away from home. He had a stepmother, and he was the youngest of the family. And she and his father had children. He had stepbrothers and sisters, or half brothers and sisters. And if anything happened, somebody broke something or did something wrong, Tom got the blame for it. And his dad would back his stepmother up in it, you know. And he didn't have a happy life. So he took one of his dad's horses and left home. And he had to go through an Indian reservation in New Mexico. Well, it was down in New Mexico near the Carlsbad Caverns where they lived. And he had to go through an Indian reservation, and they took him in and took care of him overnight. He stayed with them overnight. And the next day went on, he was going toward Benson, and Benson, New Mexico, I think it is yet. And there's a big mining town there. And the Chinese had gardens, their vegetable gardens. They peddled with wagons and horses, you know, and they'd take their vegetables into town every day. And he said somebody shot his horse out from under him. And he had to start walking, and he got on the road, and this Chinaman was coming along, and he tried to stop him. He wanted to ride into town, and the Chinaman pulled a gun. And Tom had a pistol with him, and he shot this Chinaman. And the Chinaman, the horses went on into town with the Chinaman in the cart, in the wagon. And he got into Tombstone. Why, I guess he said he did it. I don't know how it came in. Anyhow, he declares that his rifle was in the Tombstone Museum when we were there. He said that was his rifle on display there. And he had to shovel horse manure out of the corral. The big story about the shooting of the in the Tombstone Corral. Doc Holliday and the Earp brothers and all that had a fight there. But he tells things like that, you know. And his daughter-in-law told me one time, she says, Pop just reads these stories and he puts himself into these stories. But I know better because several places we stopped to talk to people, and they remembered him. Even Andy Devine, you remember? And
That name sounds familiar. I don't remember what.
huh?
Name sounds familiar, but I don't
Well,
remember
he
what.
had that gravelly voice, and in movies. And he and Tom Mix and Tom were young people together, kids together in New Mexico, and they began herding cattle, working on ranches together. And we was camped to have an Indian powwow in Flagstaff the 4th of July, And we was in Flagstaff, and we was in a campground outside of Flagstaff.
Don't kick.
And
Don't touch.
we heard this gravelly voice. And Tom says, "That's Andy Devine's voice." And come to find out, he and his wife were just camped in a little Ford van, not far from where we were camped. And so next day we started to leave the, started to go out, and Andy was sitting out in his chair in shade in the tree. And he,
Excuse me. I'm going to knock this over.
yeah, he, we stopped and visited with Andy Devine for a long time. Had a nice visit with him. And Andy remembered Tom. And he called him Strawberry. And there was another place in New Mexico that Tom had worked on, what they call the Turkey Track Ranch. And he wanted to go out and see if the buildings were there and if there's anybody there that he'd worked with when he was a kid, young fellow. And there was a young woman, the manager's wife, and Tom introduced himself and told him, he said, "Is there anybody here that would have been working here back in those days at that time?" "Yes," she says, "Old John is out here in the bunkhouse." She said, "He has a bad heart. We just don't know how long we'll have old John with us." And Tom knew him. She said, "Go out and visit with him." And Tom went out there, and he said the first thing this fellow said was, "Oh, hi, Strawberry." He recognized him. And different places. We was at another place in New Mexico. I can't think of the name of the place now, but anyhow, it used to be a gold mining place. His older brother hauled ore out of the mine down to the smelter, and closed down, the smelter torn down, the farm, the foundation for it was all there yet, but in those days. But Tom asked somebody, we was out walking in the evening after we'd found a parking place, and we was out walking and talking. He ran across a Mexican, and he says, "Is there anybody living here anymore that used to be here in those days?" "Yeah," I said, "just down the street here's old Juarez, I called him by name." Tom says, "Is he still living?" "Yeah," he says, "Go down and see him." He says, "He's still down there, and his wife." And so we went, and his wife came to the door, and Tom told him who he was. He wondered if he could visit with her husband. And the fellow was sitting on the davenport in the living room, and he said, "Hi, Strawberry, come on in." You tell me those stories were all make-up. Too many people recognized him from the past. And Tom had an interesting way of telling it, too. Children just loved him. They'd just sit and listen to him, talk those stories. The young people would just do anything for Tom. There was just something about him. He was lived in Arkansas quite a while, Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and he still had a cousin and a brother living there. And we spent a week or two there. We took a cabin out. The first year we were married, we just had a station wagon, and we rented a cabin on a lake for about a week, and good fishing off the pier and things like that. And his cousin's daughter and her husband came home for their vacation, and they were both raised there in that community, and they were home for their vacation, and they spent a week with us instead of going out with their friends and pals and being with them. They took us out in a boat and helped us to fish. We went out at night and fished. She did my hair, and they took us fishing on the river. They just spent their time with us instead of, I couldn't believe it. So instead of being with their old friends, you know. Even in the evening, they'd, 2 or 3 families of them would get together, and they were there, instead of going out with their friends. Tom just attracted everybody. He had a nephew, a niece, had three boys, and they were all grown, and they had, each of them had a share in a big ranch, their father's ranch there in Artesia. And the one, we stayed with the one, Johnny, we stayed at his house, and they had a little boy and a little girl. And Monday morning, we was getting ready to go on our trip, and while we was getting breakfast, Tom was in the living room. This little boy sitting on the arm of his chair, listening to Tom tell the stories. And the little boy says, "Wait until school's out and I'll go along with you." He was just in kindergarten. "Wait until school's out and I'd like to go with you." It just was a very interesting 10 years I had with him. And he liked to get back to the old times and meet the old people and visit his old boyhood. And he always had stories to tell about everything. It was just really interesting. But one fellow was going to write a story there in New Kaipa. I knew this fellow, and he was going to write a Tom story. So he came with a recorder, and Tom spent an evening visiting with him and telling him things. And he brought it back then as he'd written it up. And he left out the part where in Benson, the big, I can't think of the name of the mining company, the great big copper mine there at Benson, I believe it was. And they had to dig a big hole in the ground to bring the copper out. And you can stand on the edge there now, there's a sightseeing place, and look down and see the trucks hauling, working the big trucks down there, look tiny. And but when Tom was a kid, there was a time that he ran away from home. He stopped in Benson, and the horse Benson had one street down through a little canyon-like, and all the houses were built up on the hills. And the cribs, they called them the cribs, the horse had their cribs up there on the hillside. And he had to find out what he'd heard about them, and he wanted to see what it was all about. And he went up there and walked along in front of them. And of course, they wanted him to come in and visit them. And he told this in his story. And when Harry read it back to him, why, he left that out. And Tom says, "Why didn't you put that in about the cribs in Benson?" "Oh," he says, "some of those girls may be living it, and they'd sue me for slander." Tom says, "You don't write any of my stories. You can't put it all in. You don't write any of it." He wouldn't tell him anything more. He wanted it all or else. And we was in a restaurant in Tombstone, and he got talking to the waiter, the bartender, and they wanted him to go to the editor and tell a story. He wouldn't do it. Wasn't worth it. But they wouldn't put it all in. Why, if they didn't put it in the way he told it, he wouldn't have it done. But he had an interesting life. But
Grandma.
I had to walk 3 miles to school, in a country school.
Hi, Great Grandma. You on TV with Great Grandma?
Well, hi, sweetie. Goodness sakes,
Great Grandma has a kiss for you.
Come over here, Crystal. We missed you for breakfast this morning.
Where are your socks? You're missing your socks.
Come over here, Crystal. When we was in Michigan, my aunt had made a rag rug. They tore pieces of overalls or cloth together, you know, in strips, and then sewed the ends together, and then they took it. She had it woven at a town in someplace in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and she was going to entertain the Ladies' Aid Society from the church, and while we were there that summer. And my cousin and I took the horse and buggy and went into Mount Pleasant, and they stuck that rag rug in under the seat, back of the buggy, you know. And Dad and Mother and Aunt Ellen put that rug down before the Aid Society, and made a nice rug for her. And we'd go out and pick wild strawberries, and help them during, see, this is during World War I. 1918, World War I was going on. And her older sons were in the war in Europe. And she just had her younger son and her daughter my age at home. And Dad, Mother, and I helped them make their hay. And in the wintertime there, they had an ice house built with a double wall, and they packed it with sawdust. And then the river froze over. They'd go and cut big blocks of ice and in the wintertime and store it in this ice house. And they got blocks of ice out and made ice cream for them. Ladies' Aid Society in June. That's how they stored their ice in those days. And they had ice all summer.
I should show you these pictures of Ecuador, because that's about the time they're still living in.
Yeah.
Go for it, go for it.
Happy Gamma, Daddy. Happy Gamma. Dad,
Yes, good.
for Easter egg.
Mm-hmm. Say hi, Grandma. Come here and say hi, Grandma.
Hi.
Who's that? Look, Big Grandma's on TV.
Hi.
Yay.
That is
First you have to give Big Grandma a kiss before you do Easter eggs.
no.
You give Big Grandma a kiss? Come on, lady. Put them down.
Well, so things have changed so that I think back the way, as I said, I worked, did housework, took the Model T Ford from New Kuiper to Redlands. The YWCA had a little employment agency. The women in the town wanted somebody to work for them, why they'd let them know that they needed some housework. And I'd go into YWCA and they'd send me out someplace to go to work. I worked $3 a day, housework, and at that time I could fill the gas tank with gas and buy groceries for $3. I want you to put this away and hide it. I don't want anybody to use this on that dog while I'm here. You can do it when I'm gone, but I don't want to see that dog. I don't want that on that dog again while I'm here. Do you hear me? Okay. That's orders. That's orders. The dog. Oh, Grandma loves you. Grandma loves you. There. Now,
Thank you.
if you took the dog out for a walk, that'd be a different thing. But he doesn't need to
I
know
go
the
for
house.
sorry for school.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Grandma did it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice sunshine today, don't we? Hi.
That's that.
Hi, Crystal. Hello, Crystal.
He's just saying hi to you. Oops. That's how you can't see anything. She thinks she can look in the camera and probably see out the TV or something. No, don't touch that. Are you through? No more? Go put your socks on. No, Crystal. I said don't touch.
I will read this one. I know one open. I'll read this one, okay?
You want to do what?
I know one open. I read this one.
You going to read that? Oh, yeah. You have to learn. You have to read what to do before you open it.
Daddy. For Easter basket?
Yes. Later. Right now, I'm talking to Grandma.
Daddy.
Talking to Grandma.
Like
What
this.
questions do you want to ask Big Grandma?
Daddy, ask her like this. Ask her like this.
What do you want to ask Big Grandma? Ask her.
Huh?
Ask Big Grandma something.
What you
Ask her a
got?
question.
Super
Ask her
color?
how they colored Easter eggs.
Super color?
You going to color Easter eggs?
Yep.
You are.
Yeah.
Is that coloring for Easter eggs? It is? What color is it?
Blue.
Is that blue?
Yeah.
No, green.
Purple. Purple.
Green.
Purple.
Let's see.
So my, look at, I hold my purple on my fingernail.
It's the color of your fingernails. Thank goodness.
No problem. Diana.
There you are. How about Daddy was blowing bubbles?
Now sit down. You're perfect, Diana. Sit next to Grandma. Sit down next to Grandma. Sit next to... There, we got Crystal. Okay, Crystal's next to... Uh-oh.
Sure, this is next. We're all lined up. There we are. Three colors in our hands. Yeah. Good. Yeah, you hold yours
Very
up.
nice, man.
Keep going.
There you go.
Cupcake thing. Look at the cupcake.
Cupcake.
Right there. For Easter basket.
Were your cupcakes good for your party? They were.
For Easter
Can
basket.
you get...
Yes. Where's the
Oh,
bubbles go?
more.
Oh,
Let's see.
okay.
More. Yes, really good.
Yeah.
What a girl. Come on, one more, come on, please.
No kiss. Diana.
Oh, boy, the air is full of them.
Crystal, give. Crystal, can you give Grandma a kiss? Whoa! Very good. And Diana, look at Diana's bubbles.
You take your shoes on. Aren't you cold?
Look, I have all my shoes on.
Yes, you've got yours on, I see. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's my toe.
There he was.
Guess what? You remember? We straighten up. You got my shoes,
Hold your
Diana.
foot up and let us blow bubbles on your foot. Crystal, Crystal, let her blow bubbles on your foot.
Wait, is it? Hey, look my grandma.
Tickles, doesn't it? Blow bubbles on her foot.
I said, bubbles. Okay, my shoes, my shoes.
On her knee.
My
Blow
shoes,
bubbles on her knee.
my shoes. Ow, my Thanks, and then my feet.
You could hit her big toe.
My feet.
Uh-oh, better get up. Get up, Diana, get up. Sit down. Don't hurt the wires.
Don't hit. Sit up here.
Yeah. Diana, my turn.
Sit up here. Don't hurt sister.
Sorry.
My goodness sakes, you know that hurts. Pull her away all day like that. Come on, sit down.
See, I'm not hurt, Kimmy. I'm not hurt, Diane. I'm not hurt,
Well, I know,
Kimmy.
Krista.
Diana hurts, Kimmy. Yeah. Oh, I need no one.
Diana's blowing the bubbles. There they go.
Hey, I'm a Gemma. Yeah. Diana fight me down my shoes. They don't fight
Well,
me.
you can get some of them too. Ooh, that's
Ah, gotcha. Hey, I'm a Gemma. I said, the next Gemma. I said, Daddy.
Ooh. Look at them. Put them on her pants and let them stay there.
Whoa.
Now, sit down. Keep your hand off.
Ready.
Keep your hands back.
Huh?
Keep your hand over your pants. See, they'll stay on your pants if you put them on your pants.
Yeah.
We'll let them lay there.
Okay,
Look,
move, I can't
on
see.
the pants.
Yeah.
See,
Step.
look at that. See
No,
how
no,
long
it's
they
pretty.
stay? Look at that. Well, pretty. Yeah.
You can do
In my pants.
Who loves great grandma?
it. Crystal. Kimberly.
Diana. You're too busy to say it, huh? Diana. Who loves great grandma?
There they go.
Me.
See how long they last.
I by Kimberly.
See how long they last.
By Kimberly clothes.
Put them in her pants and see how long they last.
And then I by Kimberly
No, keep your
dress.
hand down.
Then I by
No,
Kimberly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is gone. There. See, you can count to 10 and they stay. Keep your hand back.
Who can count to 10?
Make room for them. Make room for them and count and see how long they last. Make them last a long time. Listen. See how long they last. Sit down. Yeah. Sit down. Put them right on her pants. See there? No. See there?
Jamas.
See how
Jamas.
long they last? Yeah.
Jamas.
Well, your cloth is better than mine. They last longer on your pants. Yeah.
Nothing. For
See there?
Easter.
Oh, there's one
rabbit.
down there on the side that's just staying and staying and staying.
Yeah.
There's one down. Now it's gone. There's it. Now it's gone. Yeah.
My turn.
Yeah.
My turn, Diana. More. Faster.
There's a nice piece of them.
Now.
There, see how long they're lasting? See there?
More.
Those are pretty ones. Yeah. There's one right underneath. See? There, we boom. It didn't last very long, did it? One week.
Hey, what you doing? Now stay.
There's a nice one. See that one? Watch it. Watch him. Watch him. There it went. Bubbles.
More. One more. Little baby ball.
There's a pretty one. There it went. Whoa. Still there.
My turn.
Your turn for what?
Above us.
For a bubble? Well, you
Yeah.
have to get over here. You have to get over here and wait, get over here in front of Grandma.
Okay.
Now then, the bubble's on her dress.
Jerry, you're going to wait for eggs.
There they come.
Okay, everybody say bye-bye.
Put your
Everybody
balls.
say bye-bye. Bye-bye for now.
There they go. Okay.
Bye-bye.